Hey everybody, this is my wooden on aluminum frame trailer that I built myself, probably I'm going to say 4 years ago. I'll give you a real quick tour of it and then I'll show you what I'm doing today, which is I'm going to be painting an additional layer of paint on the roof, an elastomeric paint, and I'll show you why and sort of what the original paint was and why I'm going with this now. So first let's have a look at the trailer. Okay, so this is the actual trailer itself. LED lights, all the wiring is done in the walls, and the walls are all 1.5 inches thick styrofoam with a 1/4 inch thick layer of plywood on both sides. The floor is also insulated, so it's really easy to keep this thing warm in the winter. I'm coming inside here. I've just got these sort of carpet tiles directly on top of plywood for the bottom, which is quite nice. This is a foam sheet. This is like what you get for couch foam, and I've just got it in here. There's two pieces, so I can have the entire bottom foam if I'm in here with a girlfriend camping, or if I'm in by myself, I'll often just have a actual cot in the side here. Sunroof, real cool, and it's all wired in for touch LED lights that run off a Jackery unit that sits here. So I basically plug in the Jackery, and there's another plug for the solar panel on the roof, so it charges itself. My fan, this is kind of a cool thing. It's actually a positively pressured HEPA filtered air system. So double pane glass, that's double pane glass. And over here, this is a unpowered roof vent. So this roof vent, basically just spin that dial, it opens and closes. You've got screen on the inside. There's a little bit of, pine needle stuff in here because I normally keep this thing slightly open. So I've just got it closed for now because I'm going to be washing the roof. And of course, you can just close the back door, security for the big back door there. And spare tire, currently just have this in the back of the car. Since I did say this was a positively pressured HEPA filtered air system, what am I talking about exactly? So I've got a little latch down here that I will open, and then we can access this area. So inside of this, again, the Jackery sits here. This is storage for like shoes and stuff, the bear spray right there by the side door. And then behind this, might as well actually show you guys what's going on. This is a HEPA filter, and that HEPA filter just sort of slides out. There's a hatch going to the outside there that you can open up. And so essentially what happens is any air from the outside, this is for recirculating within the trailer as well, but during the summer months, I would just close that up. So essentially air comes in from the outside, gets sucked through this HEPA filter by this big computer fan, which is really nice and quiet. And of course, this I'll just slide in there. So that's sort of like an air seal. The reason I did that is you do want airflow in the unit behind or beyond just like windows. But when it's smoke season, it actually will suck in air through that HEPA filter and positively pressure the whole trailer. So when you're in here sleeping at night, you get that dry feeling in your throat from all the smoke in the air. Not a big problem this year with how much it's been raining, but it actually works. It keeps the trailer really nice and cool, and on those days when it's really smoky, I've actually decided to sleep out here instead of in the house, and it's just like really nice clean air. I love it. So we're going to go up to the roof, and I'm going to show you what I'm doing with the paint. All of this paint, both inside and outside, I got it from Benjamin Moore, and it's KP22. Basically what it is, you can get this from other companies as well. It is a sort of like tractor and implement paint. So it's designed for metal, and they legally cannot sell it as a wood paint because it's like really high VOC content, nasty stuff, but really good stuff. And it's really hard. So on a metal surface, this is what you'd have on your big Caterpillars and stuff. Like, it's a really sturdy paint, but on wood, it also works. It's good solid stuff. The only issue is wood moves a little bit over time. And while it's a nice solid scratch resistant paint, it's not as flexible as you might find in a typical like exterior house paint designed for wood. So we're going to show you the roof here. I'm just standing right here. This is done with a rocker guard, and it's painted right onto there, so I don't have any issues. This is metal, this is wood. I'm gonna come up here, and that's been good. Again, the trailer's 4 years old. Had to use a really good sealant around this to make sure there was no leaks, and it's been holding up okay. I've got this on a raised up curb, so any water that hits here flows off, and there's like, this is not something that's constantly going to be in a puddle. And same thing with this. It's a typical roof vent. It kind of just gets all sealed up, and then up here I've sort of painted over it. And you can see on this paint there's a little bit of a crack going along there. Now it's not letting any water in because it's fully sealed underneath, but anytime you have sort of two different types of pieces of, or two different types of material, you get that expansion, contraction, you could potentially crack your super stiff metal paint. And then I did have some issues. So there's an area here and an area here, and essentially this plywood, it is a birch cabinet grade plywood, and you have this, like anytime there's a knot in it, they put like a little, you know, shaped piece that gets glued in, and that little shaped piece that was here ended up sort of peeling, like moving back and forth enough to make a crack in the paint, which then let water get in, which then sort of let it curl up a little bit. And then I got rid of that, patched the hole, and painted over it. This is just an exterior house paint. There's a seam going across the top of the roof here, all the way across, and it's actually been really good. And that's just the plywood butted up against each other, glued, and no issues. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean this roof. Because this is a very high gloss, hard surface paint, I'm going to give the whole thing a bit of a sanding with just a foam block to prepare the new surface. And then I'm going to paint over this with a just sort of an exterior house paint, but an elastomeric paint. Because it's the roof, anytime you have any sort of a seam or something like that, it's going to really allow a lot of stretch and movement. And so it's sort of going to be like a bit of a rubber band coating over the entire roof. I'm just going to come down around the edge, probably about an inch, and that'll be the end of my fresh paint job. That way I can leave this thing parked out in the sun for years to come, and there's just gonna be an additional layer of protection, so I don't have to worry about any of these cracks getting worse and having to inspect it each year. I just wanna make sure that it's good to go from the elements, and this is a little piece of preemptive maintenance where it's just gonna be peace of mind to know that it's not gonna leak. So with that wordy introduction, let's get to prepping this roof. I'm going to scuff the surface, which is also going to clean everything up. I'll make sure to keep adding water while I'm doing this. And we just want to get rid of any gloss so that the fresh coat of paint adheres nicely to what we have below it. I'll also be using a primer just to be doubly sure this sticks. Sure does look a lot nicer when it's clean. So this is one of those little patches they have in the wood. This was hidden underneath the solar panel, so it never had direct sunlight. Even then, you can see there's a little bit of a crack in the paint, just because the paint is not as flexible as it could be. This is designed to be put on metal, not wood. And you can see that this patch has had a little bit of water trying to get in and around it there. So it's starting to fail here. And that is why I'm replacing it with a layer of elastomeric paint for the roof. This was the paint recommended to me to go between my metal paint and the new paint that I'm using. So when you can, go with what's recommended. The old drip off, and up we go. I did wait until later in the evening to do this, so I'm not in direct sunlight, and that should make this go a lot smoother. Ooh, very nice. Almost like the white, bit of a heat reflector on top. Instead of masking this line right here, because the top coat is going to be the same color of paint, all I'm doing is, as I'm going along this edge, I'm just holding the roller at a 45-degree angle. And wherever it draws a line of paint, it's a precise enough line to make me happy for this job rather than having to mask everything. Oh yeah. Solid stuff. Is it the right stuff? I don't know, but should be good. So let's see what the first coat does. Oh yeah. You know, that is almost an exact match in color. So that'll be really nice. I won't have any sort of noticeable line along the edge here. With some excellent first coat coverage. It sort of feels like a slightly thicker version of regular house paint, and it's definitely thicker than the metal paint when you're painting that on. Here we are the next morning, and while there's a few needles and bugs that sort of settled into the paint, the finish is not bad at all, considering I'm parked directly underneath this nice big tree. Now, I'm not a paint expert. However, as of about 5 minutes ago, I do play one on YouTube. So my 2 cents on this is the metal paint, that KP22, or like a trim-clad metal paint, that's going to be the hardest of all paints to a fingernail test, when you try to dig your fingernail into that paint, and you can sort of see how hard it is. Probably the most scratch resistant, but I would only use that on actually metal, or if I put a layer of fiberglass over this wood. Considering this is just bare plywood with paint on it, and how well it did survive, that metal paint actually did impress me. I have used just regular house paint, which is probably what I would recommend for the sides of the trailer, and it is a little bit harder. You can tell this elastomeric paint here is it's slightly on the soft side, but it really does give me an impression that it's going to be really nice and flexible and waterproof, which is what I want on the roof of my trailer. If I were to do it again, would probably just use regular exterior house paint for the whole project and then see how the roof does. But seeing as I was just repainting the roof to make sure it's going to be airtight or watertight for years to come, I think this elastomeric compound is actually a pretty good choice. You can hardly tell a difference between the elastomeric paint and the existing paint. This is glossier, but doesn't stand out as being like a fresh coat or anything like that you're going to look at and be like, wow, that looks weird. Happy with that. I'm going to throw the second and final coat of elastomeric compound on this roof and get on with my day. Time to get the solar panel on that roof. Basically what I did is I took some just pieces of angle aluminum here, and I have bolted through the sides of the panel, and then you've got basically 2 screw holes there, and I just use wood screws that are stainless steel to go straight into the roof of the trailer. Put a tiny dab of silicone where each one of those goes through, and I never had any issue of water over the 4 years that this was mounted before. This is very likely unnecessary, as the paint will just seal around these screws anyways. This is from a radio controlled car style of connector that tucks in underneath. Set this right down on the old holes. I am screwing into 1/4 inch thick sort of cabinet grade birch plywood, and so I'm going to be doing this gently, don't over torque, and that's where I have a total of 8 of these screws, and they hold this thing on beautifully. Of course, if you really screw in, you've only got a little bit of bite there, so you just want to make sure you don't overdo it. And they found their old holes perfectly. A little bit of DAP's just going to act as like a thread sealant as well. I had been stressing about this for a little while because I knew it was something that I had to do, and I didn't really realize how much time it was going to take. So when I started it last night, just getting it washed off and prepped for primer was enough to be like, yeah, this is going to go fairly quickly, and I can check it off the list now, knowing that I've sort of protected my project. There we go. So we should have live solar power on the inside now. I'm going to go hook up the Jackery just to see how many watts I'm pulling off the sun with this old panel. This is a Jackery 500. So I think it's 519 watt hours. Basically, you've got some USB outputs, your 12 volt DC, the input from the solar, and of course a 110 volt outlet, which is good for about 500 watts continuous. Believe me, I strongly considered getting a deep cycle lithium battery and running my own electronics, but this is also what I use in my boat. So it's been a really cool investment. So this guy, you basically just set in here like so. I believe the output is there. So if I turn this on, I'm at 96% capacity, 0 watts in, 0 watts out. I of course have my fan here. The important part, we're looking at the solar. So I'm gonna plug in the input here, and we're pulling in 59 watts right now. Not too shabby. And this isn't even the best sunlight of the day. So there it is. We've got a sealed roof, we've got solar, and I might as well show you while I have you in here. Here's my light supply. Make sure that I power up that. Touch. You can basically just hold it and change how bright it is. So you can dim that down. Don't know if that's going to show up on camera, but anyways, on, off. Of course, on, off there. Now with them both on, if I simply come down to this and turn off my lights, press that and out go the lights, on go the lights. So when I'm ready for bed, I just reach down, turn off everything. Kind of cool setup in here. You may notice that there is a double pane skylight in here. My windows are all double pane, which are surprisingly expensive and hard to find, but I got some used ones. And yeah, this is where I load up all of my mining gear and then basically get to the claim, unload the mining gear, sleep in the trailer. It's just an awesome little place to have to hang out. And just before I end the video, let's show you guys the outside here. So I have a Timbren Axel-less suspension. So if we have a look underneath the trailer here, you can see that is the Timbren Axel-less suspension. So it's basically got like a big rubber elastomer there. So it acts as a shock absorber and a spring. And then of course you don't have the axle quite as low under the trailer. So lots of clearance. This is all insulated with foam, and the entire trailer construction, this is aluminum that I welded up myself. If you guys are interested in, I built this trailer I think about 4 years ago before I was doing YouTube videos, and it was kind of a cool project. I don't have a lot of video of it, but I have some pictures, and I could put together a trailer build video, just sort of start to finish, and give you guys a quick tour of this a little bit more in depth if you're interested. Let me know in the comments below. Comments help the algorithm, help my channel grow, so always appreciate whatever you guys are talking about down there. And do let me know if you want to see more of this trailer, if I should just get out and go gold mining. Quit wasting my time on these things. Anyways, thanks for watching everyone, and we'll see you in the next one.